After these 36 years, once again, when I'm sitting on this stage, the groom is different. And the groom is as young as I was at that time, because I now can stick to this word that he's a young man, because Mr. Liaquat Baloch has already called him a young man. कि न सिर्फ के जवान है बल्कि जवान फिक्र भी है. As a young lawyer, and this is exactly 40 years ago, in 1979, when I started my legal practice, Mr. S.M. Zafar was already a shining star in the legal profession. He was an icon then, and he still remains an icon now. And I remember that when I became a part-time lecturer in different law colleges while practicing law, we had this option. We could become part-time lecturers, delivering lectures once or twice in a week in different law colleges. I used to tell my students in the law colleges that there have been many great lawyers, but the lawyers who are known to all and sundry outside their profession also are lawyers who have another dimension to their personalities. Apart from being experts in the legal field, they have to have another dimension to their lives, and that is why they are known throughout the society and not just in their own professions. And I used to take the name of Mr. S.M. Zafar, that he is not just a great lawyer, a brilliant lawyer, but he has many dimensions to his personality, and those dimensions, you know all of them: his love for art and culture, his intellectual pursuits, his academic pursuits, his writing flair, and all those examples I used to give to my young students, that if you want to be, not just to be a good lawyer, but a great one, known all over, then you have to have another dimension, and the ideal then and ideal now is Mr. S.M. Zafar. I talked about my marriage. Dr. Naseem Asad Shah was my father-in-law, late Justice Naseem Asad Shah. And incidentally, Justice Shah and Mr. S.M. Zafar were very close friends. And I do not remember any day that I met my father-in-law when he did not ask me, "How is my dear friend, Mr. Zafar?" I remember when as a judge of the High Court, I had to travel to different benches. Then as judge of the Supreme Court for the last about 10 years, I am in Islamabad, and traveling back to Lahore every weekend. And when my father-in-law was alive, and he had become very old, and senility was already taking over, and he was repeating himself, the same questions he would repeat many a time. And I remember every weekend he would ask me 5 or 6 specific questions, and out of those specific questions one of the questions was, "How is my friend Zafar?" So this was the love and affection for Zafar Sahab. And I remember that in my father-in-law's old days, I requested Ali Zafar that please arrange a meeting between Zafar Sahab and my father-in-law, because my father-in-law remembers him so much. And Zafar Sahab was very kind to pay him a visit. I was also present in that meeting, and that was a memorable meeting between two old friends. And I could see some of good moments. They would like to share some good moments in their friendship, but because the son-in-law was sitting in that meeting, so they could not share those things in my presence. So in that backdrop, when Mr. Zafar asked me to write a foreword for this book, it was something to which I didn't know how to react. On the one hand, he had been my ideal, my